How good are you at waiting? It requires patience, doesn't it? In a sermon recently, I spoke of a maths teacher I had who told us all that patience was a virtue, but certainly one that she didn't have. Well, the psalmist here, he's got patience. He's waiting on God. And he needs to. And we need to. Why? Because, like David, we often make a mess of things in our lives. And so we don't immediately, when we've done that, run to God and say, "Oh, God, sort this out, fix it now," immediately. We go and we wait on him in a humble way. We go and we wait on him in an expectant way. And we patiently ask for his mercy and help. And wonderfully, look what happens when we do that. Just like the psalmist, we'll also find, and it's the same as when we first became Christians, that we're dragged out of this mud and this mire of our own making. And our feet are set upon a rock, something that's solid, something that's firm. We're given a place to stand. Of course, ultimately, as Christians, when we first became Christians, it was on Christ, the solid rock, that we now stand. And like the old hymn says, all other ground is sinking sand. There's no other rock to stand on than Christ that gives us certainty and security in this life. And it gets even better because the psalmist talks in verse 3 of how it changes our whole outlook. Look, it says here, "You've put a new song in my mouth," and of course God has. When we first became Christians, do you remember the joy of sins forgiven? Do you remember the joy of knowing that now you have a purpose in your life, that there's a place to head for even after this life that is true and eternal? And it's a place of eternal pleasures because it's there with God. And so we gladly, like the psalmist, we will confess that we need God and that we will commit our lives to him. Why wouldn't we? Towards the end of the psalm, we get these wonderful, conflicting but very comforting truths here in verse 14. Our God is a mighty God. And yet also verse 17, our God is a merciful God. So let's know and understand that even though we may have made a mess again as a Christian, things we've done or said, let's understand that we go to God, we wait on him patiently, and we'll find that he lifts us out because he's mighty. But he then helps us stand on Christ, the solid rock, even though we don't deserve it, because he's merciful, gracious and kind.